Hello and welcome to Catholic Current, where we give you an update on events affecting the Church in the United States. From Washington, D.C., I'm Mara Moser. On May 22nd, the Church will observe a National Day of Prayer and Remembrance for Mariners and Seafarers. We spoke with Bishop Brendan Cahill, Bishop Promoter of Stella Maris, the Catholic ministry to people of the sea, about the Church's maritime mission. Welcome again, Bishop Cahill. You are the Bishop Promoter for the Apostleship of the Sea. Can you tell us, what is the Apostleship of the Sea for folks who may not be aware of this ministry of the Church?
Oh, sure. It's a ministry especially for our seafarers. So you can just imagine we rely upon the ships transporting goods across the seas, and there's millions of people work on the ships. And so there's a ministry that's been established actually since 1921 in Scotland, ministry especially for the seafarers and through them for their families. And so in the Catholic Church, we call it Stella Maris for Star of the Sea, dedicated to Our Lady Star of the Sea. And so, for example, if you're Houston, Newark, Los Angeles, your big ports, there'll probably be a priest, chaplain in charge of the port ministry, the Stella Maris ministry. He'll probably have a lot of volunteers or ministers, lay ministers. And the idea is that when a ship comes on at the port, that there are people there to welcome them, pray with them. It's a ministry that's especially geared towards the seafarers. And so my title, I am called a Bishop Promoter. I tell people it's not really, there's no authority, no one reports to me. I am a promoter. I try to come on programs like this to encourage people to support the seafarer ministry. Right. Anyone who's watching this is a spiritual person. That's motivating you to watch this. So gratitude to God for just an interest in what the Church is doing and different ways we're serving and called to be with people. So I thank each person participating in this.
Oh, thank you very much. It's wonderful to speak with you and hear more about this important ministry of the Church. So thank you very much. On Wednesday, May 10th, a panel of advisors to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration voted unanimously to make an oral contraceptive available to consumers over the counter. In response, Bishop Robert Barron, chair of the Committee on Laity, Marriage, Family Life, and Youth, urged the government to work to protect women's health. In a written statement, he said, "Allowing this to go forward is antithetical to the Hippocratic oath that guides physicians to first do no harm, and I urge the FDA to reject this recommendation." You can read his full statement on usccb.org. The FDA decision is expected later this summer. We turn now to Robert Duncan with Catholic News Service in Rome, where Pope Francis recently met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for the first time since the war began.
After literally hundreds of public prayers for peace in Ukraine and 443 days after Russia launched an all-out war on the Eastern European country, Pope Francis welcomed Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to the Vatican. The topics of conversation May 13th included, quote, the humanitarian and political situation in Ukraine caused by the ongoing war, the Vatican press office said. Pope Francis assured the President of his constant prayers, evidenced by his many public appeals and continuous invocation to the Lord for peace since, the statement continued. The Vatican said both agreed on the need for continued humanitarian efforts to support the population, and the Pope particularly stressed the urgent need for gestures of humanity toward the most fragile people, the innocent victims of the conflict. Zelensky, in a tweet after the meeting, said he was grateful for the Pope's personal attention to the tragedy of millions of Ukrainians. But he also said he asked the Pope to, quote, condemn Russian crimes in Ukraine, because there can be no equality between the victim and the aggressor, end quote.
Thanks for joining us for this edition of Catholic Current. You can find out more about any of this week's topics by visiting us online at usccb.org or follow us on social media at usccb. I'm Mara Moser. See you next week.